So it's almost time for Comic-Con. These are the top 5 collectibles that I actually own that I purchased at Comic-Con. So welcome to Josiah is Right, and as I said in the intro there, these are the top 5 collectibles that I have from Comic-Con that I actually purchased. Now, I almost thought about doing a video of like things I got for free, but since we moved, the area behind me is decorated, but there's still a lot of stuff in boxes over here to my right. We're in my garage now, and I don't have access to everything to kind of go through it, but I did go through the stuff I purchased, which is mostly kept in a separate place. So I might have done this before, I cannot even remember a list like this, but doing it again, not because I bought anything new, but because things change in terms of my opinions about what matters to me in terms of collectible. You know what I mean? Things are shifting and changing, and it's all a relative thing. But I wanted to start with my top 5 that I actually do have that are, at least as of 2023, the most significant ones. And so number 5. Number 5, this is George Lucas? Not exactly. This is Han Solo, the Ralph McQuarrie concept art from Gentle Giant 2017. I also have Chewbacca and Yoda from, I think, like 2018, 2019, the following years. They did a Stormtrooper maybe 2020 or 2019 as well. But those ones, again, the Stormtrooper, it looks kind of like a Scout Trooper. Those ones weren't as interesting to that one. Is the only one I don't have. Any other two I like a lot, but not as much as this one. They're cool to have as a set. The Yoda's sort of the Munch Yoda look, you know, if you know the comic books, there was originally a panel that had that look of Yoda that looked much more like, almost like legitimately Muppety, and then they changed the design to look, you know, to match what the Yoda became. So that's what that one looks like. But this one is my favorite. These are all open and unsealed, that I put them back in the boxes as we moved. These used to decorate our TV stand, and then once we had our kids, they kind of shifted away. Really not even once we had our kids, once basically Penny could start to grab stuff so pretty quickly, and it was on the bookshelf, and that bookshelf is now over there with books on it, and before that bookshelf had retro video games. So he's kind of moved around a lot in terms of where he's been decorated, so we'll see where he ends up here in the new house. I don't yet know, but this is number 5 in my top 5 Comic-Con collectibles of all time that I actually own. Number 4, and it is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So this is from 2011, which might have been the first year that I actually went to Comic-Con in San Diego. I'd gone to other conventions throughout the years, mostly in LA and maybe WonderCon in Anaheim, which is closer to where I live. And when our last place was in Anaheim. But this is my favorite because this is, again, I think from my first Comic-Con in 2011, and it is signed by Brian Lee O'Malley here, and this was a set of 3, so there's a slight bit of regret with this one where I wish I bought the other 2 just as a collector, but this was my favorite one and had all of the characters with like the Japanese font here, and I forget what the other 2 were. I think it like featured, maybe one featured Scott, maybe one featured Ramona, I'm not even sure, but this one to me was the coolest one because it had like all of the characters, or at least most of the characters, or many of the characters, and I liked that a lot. So this is from our office, which was, you know, formerly where I shot these in our old place, off the wall, and here for you. And this is one of those things too, that any kind of decorative piece for Comic-Con art, that's stuff that's boxed away somewhere if we have. So I gotta figure out what we have to decorate. And most of the stuff on the walls here is for my stuff that's not Comic-Con exclusive.
3.
So Spider-Man with the cloth mask here, this Peter Parker, is one of my favorites for 2 reasons. First, he represents Mighty Mugs, which I was really into for a bit. And I had a collection, and this was before we had kids. We had a housewarming party for our place, and these go back to, not this one specifically, but go back to decorating our first place when Judy and I got married. We had our Mighty Mugs and our TV stand. We still have the same TV stand, just differently painted. I painted it when we moved to Anaheim a few years ago. And they were perfect height for sort of the openings in that TV stand. And we had a housewarming party at our other place, and these kids came over that were neighbors, and they were, you know, youngish kids, and they just beat the heck out of those toys, smashing their faces together, because I was like, yeah, you can play with it, no big deal, because the other kids that had been over, I didn't yet have kids of my own, they were gentle with them and not super violent. These kids were super violent. They chipped paint on them, and they were just basically mostly ruined. I was able to clean them up a little bit, and I sold them off for basically nothing. Not that they were super valuable, but they were definitely worth less after those kids played with them before. So this guy represents the untainted one. This is, I'm a toy opener normally, but this guy stays in his box kind of maybe almost for that reason. But he represents, and he's a bit dusty, wow. He represents my previous love of Mighty Mugs, and he's sort of the last one that I will keep for a long time. I remember like the year before I got this, or the year right around that time, there was like the Peter Parker split face one that I wish I had, that was a pretty awesome one too. But this is definitely my all-time favorite Mighty Mug, regardless of all the other stuff. But that story sort of adds to why it stays in the collection. 5, 4, 3. And it's 2. These are alien reaction figure prototypes. Now I also have the early bird kit and the full set of figures with the blue backing cards, and I love those, but I decided to just focus on these because these 2 were my favorites, and these 2 actually didn't get at Comic-Con. These were actually given to me by Paul later, my good friend Paul, who's been on some of my videos, plenty of Comic-Con videos, and he's not going this year. It's funny. So whenever we got in line, I was able to do my pre-order for the blue set, which you could only do at Comic-Con, and they gave you the early bird kit, but they had run out of these, and so I couldn't get it. But Paul got it, and he's like, you're way more into this than me. And this represents reaction figures for this. This is what started this line of figures that we didn't get in the 70s when the Star Wars came out, because hey, R-rated toys, even though not much long later, Aliens would have a line of toys in the early 90s, Terminator toys, all kinds of stuff. Rambo had a cartoony, R-rated stuff became the norm in terms of kidifying it. But this was before that, so these never were released. And to have the prototype editions, the box is somewhere in the pile up there, but these guys are kept separately in my sort of action figure case. So I cherish these for multiple reasons. They're from Paul. They represent reaction figures when Super 7, initially started it with these guys before it became, on and on and on, which is fine. I'm not as into it now as I was very early on, but I love it for what it was very early on. And I'm so glad they're still going with it, don't get me wrong. But these ones are and will always be the most special ones in the reaction line for me. 5, 4, 3, 2.
1.
Now number 1 is to my left, and it's a big box here. Ugh. And the outer box here is beaten to heck and been through the ringer and then some. This part broke. I was carrying it one day and it just snapped off, but that's kind of okay and that's beautiful art on there. But this guy is in here, and it is the Hasbro Sentinel, again, maybe from 2011. Yes, from 2011, which I think, again, was my first Comic-Con. And maybe that's when the Mighty Mug Spidey was there as well. So that year I got 4 of these, and I sold the other ones. And I wish I kept one because I love it in the package. I wish I kept the second one to open this one. His batteries doesn't even work. It's dead. Oh, it kind of worked. That's the first time I've heard it in quite a few years. But I love X-Men. I love Spider-Man, Days of Future Past, that storyline, and I love Sentinels. And so this is such a great toy for that. I don't even collect, this is that 3 3/4 scale Marvel superhero line that was around this time. I had the Helicarrier briefly. I sold that. It was just too big. I never even opened it, and I wanted to. But this guy will stay in the collection as one of those few, sort of cherished pieces representing, starting to go to Comic-Con, collecting at Comic-Con, but just the X-Men and all that beyond that. So that is my number 1, and those are my top 5 Comic-Con collectibles. Hope to see you at Comic-Con. I don't even know if I'll be getting this year. We're gonna go with the kids, so maybe they'll want to get into collecting, or maybe they'll just want to get out of there because it's gonna be crowded and they're little and they like it more than me. I'm rambling here again.